guys, I didn't really say anything of value in my last video. I think 4 portraits was too many, and I stopped talking and just focused on painting. So we just have 1 portrait today, and I'm gonna try to explain my thought process behind everything I'm doing. I don't have a very concise process, but I do have a bunch of habits that I tend to repeat, so maybe we can call that a process. I will be nerfed today. My cat is in my lap right where my elbow needs to be, so we have added challenge. I think I've found a very teen-looking person. I have trouble judging ages, but this seems fine. Alright. So usually I'm tempted to go for something like this, which is my habitual Loomis method guideline. But what this tends to do for me is make it harder to place features, which makes no sense, because the whole purpose of this is to make placing features easier. But I'll tend to make eyes about this big, which limits the distance here. And then when I turn ahead, I kind of have the same problem where I don't elongate this, so the eyes are just all misplaced. So for that reason, we will try not to use that and just draw what I see. It does help to draw everything that you think might be there, even if you can't see it, just so you understand how maybe the hair lays over the ear a certain way. I see a lot of this sort of thing where nobody really draws out the back of the head, and then the hair ends up being way down here, really flat, and it just looks strange. I think the head is actually taller than this. Yeah. This head is at a slight turn, which is difficult for me for these reasons. The eye distance from the side of the head. Judging this spot is the hardest for me. I do not have a good grasp on that. I like to zoom out a little when I do the hair, just because it helps me see everything all at once, and I can better judge how big it needs to be, usually. I'm not looking to make this stage of the hair very presentable. It's just here as a shape that I'm gonna paint under later, so I have a general idea of how big things are gonna be. I've made it a habit to keep the little sketch off to the side. Just so I can see it. Sort of the before and after. I like to have it there. I like to take the second or third to darkest color and fill in my shape with that first. Don't forget to go a little further than necessary where the skin is going under things like hair and clothes, if you're gonna do it the way I do it, because I think it really helps. It helps define the whole shape, because I feel like if you cut it off here where the shirt is, for example, you will be far less likely to continue the shading past this point, and there might be an awkward, like, let me see. Let's say you cut it off right here, and you're adding your colors. There might be a little something like, oh my gosh, what? Oh, my pin's not working. What's going on? Yeah. Maybe a little something like this. It's a really strange, and it doesn't look like that over here. It should look like, it should continue down. Gosh, what? Oh, here we go. Yeah, it should continue down, and I guess I'm just far more likely to do that if I've colored underneath past whatever object like this. Okay, so what I've been doing recently is blocking in some very general colors and lighting. Just color picking. I am not very good at choosing colors myself, so I've been learning with this recently. This does a couple things for me. This will give a general form to work with, like sort of like a ball of clay, right? And it will also serve as a nice background layer for all of my brush strokes, so there's not any empty space behind them. So then, after I have all that very general stuff down, I will go for structural shadows and define them better. When it comes to the eyes, I saw this trick somewhere on Instagram, where you, going back to the clay ball, you sort of dig a hole in here, like this. And then I like to take the lightest skin tone and use that for the eye whites. And again, this depends on your skin tone, but if you can pick a color from your subject and use that for the eyes instead of white or something, it usually looks nicer, in my opinion. It all blends together and the eyes don't stick out in a weird way. Then I like to paint over all of that with the eyelids, because it's sort of like, again, you have the ball of clay, you dig a little hole out, you put the eye in there, and you take a little extra piece and place it over, and that's what this eyelid is doing. I like to put down a big shadow as an eyebrow first, and then brush in key hairs like this. I feel like it gives detail without overloading. Like, you wouldn't want to have an eyebrow like this that's just, well, I mean, I guess that looks pretty similar, but it's a subtle difference. But I feel like it looks a lot softer than brushing in every single hair, because it kind of looks like every hair is there, but it feels almost like having a weak eyebrow and then filling it in with eyeshadow or something, you know? Once I have most of the form done, I like to drop my line art. I mentioned this in another video I made, but essentially, once I have this, I can pretty much already tell what's going on, and it would just be way more effort to have to paint on top of all of these guidelines, so just getting rid of them is way easier for me. And about here is where I will let myself start using darker colors to define things. And one of the big reasons I wait until this point is because these guidelines layered on top of places where I've already painted tends to throw off what I think it looks like. So this is a good point to also fix any discrepancies. Like, this eye shape is a little off, so I'm taking the opportunity now to touch it up. I also like having done this a handful of times with progressively darker colors as I go, because it builds up some color and texture underneath, so that by the time I do my finishing details, they aren't weirdly sharp and out of place. They look layered. I'm gonna be careful about darkening other places because I want to bring most of the focus to the eyes in this piece, since today's daily is eyes. So I'm just gonna be really subtle about, well, I guess these are occlusion shadows, maybe. Sometimes it helps to back the head with a little bit of hair, like these tiny bits that would be hard to paint over. They're just really small, they don't seem like they'll matter a whole lot, but they will. They will. So it's just good to have them safe and sound back there. Make sure, because if you put it over like I would with the rest of the hair, it would be like that. You know, that wouldn't look very good at all. So I like to go back here, throw those in. Then I can come up here. And you want to put broad shapes in here first. Then you can go in, put your wisps. I like to do my freckles by hand, just because I feel like I can't find a brush that matches my style enough, but it just makes sense. It feels more cohesive, because it's like it's intentional.
gonna keep the earrings really simple and not render them very much, keeping in line with how I left the lips pretty light compared to everything else, just so they wouldn't pull away from the eyes, because I did want the eyes to be the focus. Yep, it's like they're not even there. Beautiful. Okay, I think that's everything. I'm sure there are more things that I do subconsciously, but I'm hoping you can get some use out of what you've seen. And please let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see.